All right, Syria, there you go.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to OTF Connect. I'm happy to see so many new faces here tonight. It's great that we have such a great turnout, and I'm also delighted at the number and variety of workshops that we will be offering to you over the winter, spring sessions. Thank you for giving of your time to join us here tonight. I know it's your own time, and we really appreciate that you spend that time with us. I'm Syria Skirhan, facilitator and coordinator of the OTF Professional Development Project, and it is my pleasure to welcome Mally Bickley here tonight, who will be facilitating the webinar on learning circles. I'm very, very grateful to Mally, who has facilitated a number of sessions for us over the last 2 years, and who will be facilitating a few more through the winter-spring session.
Thanks a lot, Syria and Louise, and it's always a pleasure to present in this way, and just sort of mirroring what Louise said and Syria said, for all of you to be participating in professional development after a really long day at school, and especially since it was an indoor day. I'm sure it was in your school as it was in ours. We really appreciate that you're coming and extending your professional learning, and I thank OTF for providing these opportunities as well, because I think it's just an incredible way to just learn together and have a chance to talk about what we're doing in our classrooms and to share the knowledge. And it's a fantastic opportunity, and I'm very grateful for it. So I'll just introduce myself. My name is Mally Bickley, and I teach grade 4 in Bradford, just a little bit north of Toronto, a small community, very, very multicultural area, which our school is very multicultural, which I love about our school. In my class, I have over 9 languages spoken, and kids from 19 countries, and it's just a fabulous place to work and to teach. And I feel very great. I'm grateful every day that I'm in the school that I'm at. And I have my administrator is very supportive of some of the initiatives that we do in our classroom, and connecting globally, and encouraging the kids to collaborate and share with each other, and also with people around the world that I'll be talking a little bit about tonight. That's my day job. At night, not at night, but I'm also volunteer. I volunteer with iEARN Canada, which is the International Education Resource Network, and it's a network of over 250,000 teachers around the world who work together on projects, all project-based learning, and we connect our classrooms. And it's a fantastic organization. You might have heard about it in other professional development sessions. And along with a friend of mine, Jim Carlton, we coordinate the Canadian side of it. And most of the people who are involved in iEARN are volunteers. So it's a very dedicated bunch of teachers who work together and connect our classes. And often when we're doing presentations or workshops on collaborative learning, people say, okay, this all sounds fabulous, and I'd love to connect my classroom, but where do we start? And we always say, the best way to start is with a learning circle. And so, this is interesting, Manu. Okay. So a learning circle, what a learning circle really is a facilitative model of learning where classrooms are connected around the world in different locations, and they collaborate on a set of projects and based around a theme. And it's in iEARN, I'm going to specifically talk about iEARN learning circles, and then talk a little bit about at the end other places where you can find them. But it's for a definitive amount of time. And it's structured in a specific way. It's a structure designed by a professor from Pepperdine University in California. Her name is Margaret Real, and she's fabulous. She's a great person to work with. And so she designed learning circles based on a specific structure. And the premise is at the end of it that the students have a collaborative publication at the end. And depending on what the group says, and it's all group driven. It's driven by the group, but facilitated by somebody who's experienced in facilitating a group. So what this means for the students, and I want to talk about what it means for the students and what learning circles mean for the teachers as well, because I think it's a structure that really benefits the learning of students for sure, but it's really, in my mind, has really not improved my teaching, but really taken my teaching to a different level, because I'm able to collaborate with teachers from all over and work with students from all over. So what do learning circles mean for students? One thing is it's all project-based learning, and we hear that over and over again in our school effectiveness framework and with the ministry. They want project-based or inquiry-based learning. You're using 21st century skills, and again, that's another term that we hear all the time, but I think you'll see as we go through this that you see that the students are collaborating with each other. They're creating, they're using critical thinking, they're having to do some pretty authentic problem solving, and it really strengthens 21st century learning for them. It provides an authentic audience, because we know that students, especially the students that we're teaching right now, they know that they have a worldwide audience, and it's something that we can tap into. There's an emphasis on cross-curricular, which for me, when I'm teaching in a learning circle, we all have to be cognizant of that we're covering curriculum, but you can actually see it, you can hear it, you can taste it, you know that it's cross-curricular, writing across curricular. There's a lot of multidisciplinary themes. I know that there's quite a few high school teachers in this webinar tonight, which I think is fabulous. And it might be a little bit more difficult for you to see how you can integrate this into your program, but cross-curricular is a little bit easier in elementary. Some of the samples that I have are elementary. They're my specific ones, but I went to my friends that also do learning circles in other places and asked for some secondary examples that I'll be able to show. So thinking about that, it can be multidisciplinary and multi-grade. It supports collaborative learning, and it connects the students to real issues, real people. They're not just learning about it from textbooks, they're learning in iEARN. We call it learning with the world, and the learning circles definitely enable students to learn with the world. And the other thing that really is very helpful is it helps the students in another 21st century learning skill. I think that it's really important is to develop a way for students to have a relationship with people cross-culturally, understanding values and perspectives of others, because in reality, the students that we're working with will need to have those skills in order to compete in the workforce. What does it mean for us? As teachers, we're always looking at different ways to engage our students, and we're hearing that we want them to be global citizens, but how is that going to happen? So it provides an opportunity for our students to have a global education experience. We're, again, hearing all about project-based learning and inquiry-based learning, and learning circles provide that opportunity to have theme-based project work and that they can integrate into their classroom. And the one thing that I might always keep saying we is because normally I do this presentation with Jim, but we don't want you to look at a learning circle as something else to do on your already really, really busy schedule, because we know that it's a jam-packed curriculum. There doesn't seem to be any wiggle room at all, but these learning circles can be fully integrated into your classroom curriculum. And actually, when I go to assess, and this is something that we're going to be talking about in the next webinar, it's when I go to assess some of this work, I can actually get 5 or 6 report card comments from one participating in one learning circle, which it really kills. It really is. It's just one of those byproducts that really comes from participating in this cross-curricular and multifaceted area. We want the kids to be developing skills by working with other students, and another great byproduct is that we're learning, our professional learning communities are growing by not just collaborating with teachers within our school building and teachers within our boards and districts, but we're also now collaborating with teachers internationally and learning from that sort of collective intelligence and experience. And if I don't know something, then hopefully somebody else will know, and we support each other. And it's a very very supportive way of integrating some of this project-based learning and global education. So some of the organizations that are involved in, that I'll be talking about specifically about iEARN, but also how they integrate. And I think once you get into communicating and collaborating with teachers from around the world, what happens is there ends up being a lot of sort of cross-pollination, that one organization will work with another, and you just get to meet so many people and you start working together, which is definitely one of the benefits. So the main organization that does facilitate learning circles is iEARN, which is the International Education Resource Network. And I'll put their web address in the chat box. Oh, iEARN. And then iEARN partners with an organization called MyHero, and that's another fabulous organization that if you're the least bit interested in a learning circle, it's definitely one of them that we would recommend at the beginning. And another organization that is also facilitates learning circles is something called Flat Connections, and you might have heard about this organization before. It was called the Flat Classroom Project, but they've just changed the name. So I'm just going to talk specifically about iEARN learning circles, partly because they're the ones that we know best, and then we can really speak to the effectiveness of and the success of the learning circles. So what happens in a learning circle is once you join iEARN, you need to, in order to participate in an iEARN learning circle, you need to join iEARN, and you can do that by going to iEARN.org and going to the join page. And that will send, once you fill out the forms, you can send it to me, and I'll say, oh yeah, we'd love to have you. And then you join iEARN, and then you can go back into the project pages and join a learning circle. So once you've joined a learning circle, what happens is you're paired up with between 6 to 8 international partner classes. And really, this is a great way to be guaranteed to have that international flavor. In iEARN, there's about 250 projects. 10 of them are 10 to 12 are learning circles. The other ones can be a one-to-one classroom, and you might not necessarily have that international flavor. I'm just looking at a question. Is there a minimum age grade? Nope, there's kindergarten, there's an elementary. They fall into, and I'm going to talk about that in a second, they fall into elementary, middle school, because it's US-based, and secondary. So there are learning circles that are for students as young as kindergarten and then go all the way up to secondary. The one thing about a learning circle is that there's an experienced facilitator who's guiding this whole project. They're not telling you what to do week by week by week, or that would be, it wouldn't be as organic or as engaging for the kids if they don't have a little bit of say in what's going on. But that facilitator will send out weekly reminders and question prompts and activities that you can be working on together with your partners, and they keep you on track. And I find, for me, especially, we're all so busy, having that email at the beginning of the week saying, okay, this is the activity that we're going to be working on, it really keeps that forefront in my mind. And that happens for about 16 weeks. And I'll show you in a second how it's laid out. In a learning circle as well, the other thing is that it is divided into elementary, middle, and secondary. So you're working with students around the same age group. And depending on the classes that sign up for learning circles, there is quite a diversity. We generally find through iEARN that there's heavy participation from students in Russia and in Asia, in Pakistan and India, and in Taiwan and Japan and Australia. So there tend to be 1 or 2 classes from those countries in each learning circle, which is absolutely fabulous. It really gives the students an opportunity to learn, really from around the world. There's a definite timeline. They start there's 2 times in the year, and I'll tell you about that in a sec, but they start in September, and then again they start in February. And everybody needs to be responsible, and that's the other thing. It's sort of that peer pressure that keeps it together. The facilitator will facilitate the project, but the activities are driven by the students and by the teachers that are in the project. And so when you do sign up for Learning Circle, we really hope that people have made that commitment. They know that they're going to be participating in this project for 14 to 16 weeks, and really have made that commitment to participate in the activities. It's not an overwhelming amount of work, but as I said, you can definitely get a lot of assessment through this whole process. And then, thinking about the leadership, you talk about, teachers helping each other and students helping one another, and that's really definitely seen through learning circles. So in order to register for a learning circle, as I said, you need to join iEARN. And there are 2 sessions which work really well with the semester program. So the first session starts in September, and the registration is at the end of August. What happens as well when you sign up for iEARN is every couple of months we'll send out an email reminding people of what projects are available and which ones are running, some information that they'll be interested in, but we're really focused on making sure that people have the information about learning circles. So there'll be a couple of emails just before we start school again in September, and then again for the second session, the registration is actually happening right now, and the registration is closing on Friday. So if this is something that you're interested in, there are still opportunities to get involved in the Learning Circle. And they go from now until the beginning of May. And sort of really before we get into writing report cards, then it gets a little bit crazy, and we all know what that's like. And it also builds in time for classes to have their March break or their spring break or whatever needs to happen. They're very aware that classes have that time. So there's the information on how to, maybe Louise, if you could put that collaborate.iEARN.org, that will lead you right to the page where the Learning Circle registration will happen. In terms of topics, for the past few years, the topics have been pretty static, and they've been the same because they've been so successful. And the topics are engaging for the students. They're exciting for the teachers. I know that every time I sign up for one of these projects, I'm really excited to get started because it's something that's really meaningful for the students, and the topics are they're very timely, and they tie really well into the curriculum, and they're topics that the students are interested in, and sometimes really extend their learning. So the one in the top right-hand corner is called the Bat-Chen Diaries, and this is a learning circle. You can't hear me. Can anybody else not hear me? That's kind of a silly question, because if you can't hear me, then you can't hear me. Okay, it'll catch up. Okay. So the Bat-Chen Diaries is probably geared towards intermediate and secondary students. And it's a project where students read collectively. The 6 to 8 classrooms around the classroom read a diary entry by a little girl named Bat-Chen. And Bat-Chen lived in Israel during the height of the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. And she wrote about her feelings and how she felt about achieving peace throughout the world. And why couldn't she be friends with her Arab neighbors? And she wrote about her mother, and she wrote about her friends, and she wrote about school, sort of all the things that 15-year-old girls write about. And unfortunately, she went out on her 50th birthday, and she was killed by a suicide bomber. And what her mother did is she found her diaries after Bat-Chen was killed and published them because she felt that youth needed a way to express themselves through writing the way that her daughter did. So what we do in this circle is we look at the writing of Bat-Chen, we write in the style of Bat-Chen, and we all share our writing and our feelings. And within that, we also learn about the Palestinian-Israeli conflict and how that's affected the area and essentially affected the world. In the My Hero project, the students learn about who heroes are, what heroism means, and they become reporters, and they create biographies or videos or artwork about their heroes, at the same time as talking to others around the world about their heroes. And it's really interesting to see the commonality of who heroes are and what heroism means all around the world. If we encourage people to sign up for one project in these learning circles, the My Hero project, and we've done a whole other webinar on just the My Hero project, but the My Hero Learning Circle is really well facilitated. There are tons of resources available for you. The publishing tools, when we get to the publishing stage, are outstanding, and it's a great place to showcase student work, and it's just an incredible project. The Places in Perspective Learning Circle is one where students choose a place in their community, and their task is to teach others about that special place in their community, and at the same time publishing an online newspaper. The Computer Chronicles is almost the same thing. You're publishing an online newspaper with other students and other classes from around the world, but the focus is not just about places and perspectives. It's more about anything that the group chooses. My City and Me is more an area specific. This one is good for elementary, younger elementary, and like young elementary and maybe grade 2 to grade 4, focusing on that. And a new couple of learning circles. One of them is global issues, and this is a great learning circle for secondary students, because what students do is they investigate human rights, so some of the fundamental human rights, and see how they affect people in their area and how they affect people globally. So, taking a look at education and how education is, a right in so many countries, but it's also perhaps something that's not definitely, it's very hard to attain in other countries. So it's the students looking at those issues and preparing reports and sharing reports on specific global issues. So as I said, there's about 10 to 12 different topics within the learning circles, and when you go into the document to register for a learning circle, you have a selection. You can choose any of these, and plus there's quite a few more. So just as an example of some of the topics that can be studied for elementary, For places of perspective, students have talked about reported on music and traditions, peace building a better world, problems of young people, a typical day at school, all of those, any of those topics that you can read about. I hate when people read to me a PowerPoint, so I'm not going to do that. So you just take a look maybe of where your division is and see, what kinds of things that they can be investigating. The other thing about going across the divisions is in elementary, the facilitators are very aware of the student base in their learning circle. So in elementary, you might have a little bit more direction from the facilitator. She or he may give you some more specific activities that you could be doing because it's not as student-driven as something that could be in high school. When you get up to high school, we're hoping that the students within the project-based learning model will be guiding their own questions and driving their own questions and guiding their own learning. Again, the facilitator will be definitely much more of a facilitator, the guide on the side, giving the suggestions, providing some deadlines of when the work is due and providing opportunities for students to be collaborating and creating online together. So, take a look at some of those topics that you could be participating in within those learning circles. Again, they're very organic. It is, the facilitator won't say, this is the topic that we will be doing within the learning circle, because that would be, that would definitely take away the inquiry base or the project base if the facilitator will do that. So the facilitator will just give some suggestions and provide the opportunity for the students to communicate and collaborate and create online. So how it's structured is a learning circuit, and this is the structure that Margaret Rial came up with, the professor from Pepperdine University. It's this is sort of where the facilitator is guiding everybody through the process. And there's a definite process of opening the circle. There's a way of introducing yourselves to the other classes. There's a time where you're planning the circle projects and what is actually the learning circle, what are you going to achieve within that 14 to 16 weeks. The majority of the time is spent in creating and collaborating the student projects. So this is really the meat and potatoes of the project, where the students get together online, and I'll show you some examples in a minute of how the students are collaborating. And they're working together, they're talking, they're meeting on Skype, they're using Illuminate, they're using Connect to talk. There's a section, a time the facilitator will say, okay, we've collaborated, we've talked, we've created, and now we're going to have a student publication. And throughout that planning time, that's when the students will say, they'll sort of have a vision about what they're going to want their finished product to look like. And at the end, they call it closing the circle. But when I do them with my students, we actually call it the celebration, where we get together with the students online or live, and we celebrate the work that we've done, and we have an opportunity to say goodbye. Throughout this whole process, it's the class-to-class communication is really key to the success of the learning circle. The more I find, the more that your students participate in some of the activities, definitely the more that they'll get out of it. Thinking about back to the beginning, where you need to make that commitment to the learning circle, it's really important to encourage and provide opportunities for your students to be participating in the actual activities of the learning circle and provide them with the time in order to do that, and they'll definitely get a lot more out of it. So this is just an example of these are some of the countries. This was a learning circle that was done in the fall term. I didn't participate in the fall term. I generally participate in the second term, just works much better for me. But you can see that this was actually the My Hero Learning Circle, and so there were classes from Pakistan and Russia and Japan and Canada and the United States, and I'm not sure about all those flags, but again, it's a great, this was a very successful circle that came up with a wonderful publication, and very multicultural. Very, the kids learned a lot about each other, and the teachers were really dedicated and had their students collaborating and communicating quite a few times during the circle. So that's sort of what you can expect if you do sign up for a learning circle, is to have that variety of classrooms to collaborate with. So opening the circle. So what does that look like? The best way to get to know each other is by starting to talk and learning what we have in common and what we have that's different. And thankfully, there's a lot of online tools now that can provide an opportunity for students to fill in a survey. And the one that we experimented with last year is called Socrative, and just a check mark if people have used that before with their students. So Mandy, you have or have not?
I have not used it with my students.
Okay, I'm just going to put the link to the site in the chat box. Oh, Emmanuela, that's a great question. All the learning circles are in English. I'm sorry I didn't mention that. They're all done in English. Within iEARN, many of the students are using many of the students are in other countries are using iEARN projects and learning circles as part of their English acquisition classes. So we find that by the time, like our students, I speak to my students a lot about how they need to be modeling their English and that they're really helping other kids learn how to speak English. And that gives them, it's a really great incentive for our kids. But the other thing that's really amazing is when we actually do video conference with some of these students, their English is absolutely amazing. The kids from Taiwan, by the time they get to be about 11 or 12, are quite fluent. The same with the kids in Russia. It's quite amazing. I'm sorry, I'm not sure if I can pronounce Shweta. When we started this process, and Louise and Siri have heard us talk about this quite a bit, we just started with 1 or 2 computers in our classroom, and we were still able to communicate with the other students. We used it as the technology as a way to do shared writing and to do some shared reading. For example, this particular survey, and I'm getting this one ready because I am going to be facilitating one of the My Hero Learning Circles in a couple of weeks. We've done the survey so that it can be completed either by one student or it can be completed by a classroom. So it doesn't really matter if you don't have enough technology for one-to-one. Even if you have one computer in the classroom, you can still have your students participate in this, because it's not all technology driven. This is project driven. It's driven by the content, but not by the technology. Socrative is, if you've ever filled out, Socrative is an online survey tool. So if you've ever filled out like a Google form or a survey on Polldaddy or whatever, this is one that's created, that you can create online and then send the link out to people that are that you'd like to poll, and then they fill it out online, and the results are collected, and then you can share them out. So within the learning circle, this would be the role of the facilitator to prepare the survey and send it out to the participants in the learning circle, and the participants would just fill out the survey and then share the results when the surveys are all in. So really the facilitator, it's very similar to Poll Everywhere. A little bit more versatile. There's a lot of options, and you can share it. You can share it out in different ways. But sometimes the facilitator will just send out a Word document to every classroom, and the students can answer in a Word document and then collect it. But we're finding as time goes on, the tools are just getting better and better. So we're able to, and easier to use. So we're able to send a survey out this way. But it's a great tool to play with. But again, the facilitator, the project facilitator, will be the one that decides how they gather the information. Aspects of Skyping involved, absolutely, and I'll talk about that in a couple of minutes. So another aspect that's really fun, probably a little bit more engaging for elementary and middle school or junior students, elementary and junior, or elementary students, is the ability, what we want the students to do is get to know a little bit more about the communities with whom they're going to be collaborating. So we encourage students to send out a little bit of information, a couple of tangible pieces of information about their community. So sending out what we call welcome packages. And what you can do is, what I do is just go to the Bradford town office and ask the people in the mayor's office if we can have a couple of flyers about Bradford, and we'll just send those to the 7 or 8 classes. There is a little bit of cost involved, just for what it is to mail the packages, but because the learning circle is 8 to 10 or 14 to 16 weeks, even if it takes 6 weeks for one of the welcome packages to get from one class to the other, it's amazing when these packages come and you have those, you get postcards, and some people send chocolate or nuts or little pins from their communities. So we really get to learn a lot. It's not mandatory, but it's one of the fun things that can happen when you're opening the circle. In the next stage, we want the students to create and collaborate, and I've got a feeling, Louise, that let me just go ahead here. Oh, yeah, it's my mistake. This slide should be first. So we want the students to decide on the topic. So if you go back to the global issues, if we think about the global issues, how are we going to get all the students communicating and collaborating about the global issues? So what we're going to do is go to, and if Louise, you could put that in the chat, we're going to, and this is just sort of a way of brainstorming in an international way, and I don't know if you've ever used a wall wisher. It's called Padlet now. If you've used a Padlet before, what you're going to do is go to the link that Louise just put in the chat box, and it's going to open up a wall that's going to look like this. And again, this is something that I'll be doing with my circle, and this is the way we're going to do some collaborative brainstorming. So students don't have to be online at the same time. They all don't have to have a computer to do that. In my class, I've done this. I've just left one computer on all day, and I'll say to the kids, okay, now go and add to your Padlet. So, or go add your thoughts on the wall. So if you can open that up, and I'm going to open mine up in the browser as well. What I'd like you to do is we're just going to simulate that this is the beginning of the learning circle and answer the question, what do you think is the most challenging global issue today? So I'm going to open it up, and in order for you to do that, what you're going to do is just simply click on the wall, and it will bring up a little text box for you to type on. And when you're typing, you're going to see your friends typing or your peers typing at the same time, I hope.
Mally, I don't know if other people are experiencing this, but when I'm clicking on it, it's not allowing me to open open a little window. Are the settings
Really?
public for it? If other people are doing fine, that's fine. The internet does not love us tonight, everyone.
Because it says totally public.
That's
we had this issue yesterday, didn't we, Louise?
Yes, I can see it. Yesterday I wasn't able to see it. Today I can see it, but it's not allowing us to click anywhere. Let me try a different browser here. In the meantime,
which is too bad because this is a great, it really is for first activity and for students to be able to get to, first of all, they see that somebody else is actually connected to them. And that's really exciting, that, you know, when they see that some of their friends, when their friends or their peers from around the world are posting, it's really, that's the hook. I often find that as soon as they see that there's somebody there, that's the hook, and that's where you get that that commitment to the project, where the kids know that there's actually somebody on the other end. So let me see. I don't understand what. Yep. See, I can click on it, and it shouldn't have anything to do with the fact that I'm the person that made the wall. Oh. And you know, can this be used on iPads and iPods? I think so. Yeah. Anyway, so we'll go on. I'm really sorry. We've had a couple of challenges. Louise and I were playing yesterday, and challenges would be
been a little hiccupy. Yes, exactly. Mally, I think Joyce might have a question there. Her hand's up.
Okay, Joyce, would you like to grab the mic and ask a question? Or type your question? Yeah, and normally it really works well. How many years have I done this learning circle? Probably 6, 7. What grade do I teach? I teach grade 4. But having said that, I facilitate the learning circle that's for middle school, so from grade 6 to grade 8. You're supposed to see a wall that looks like this that has a question at the top that says Global Issues Learning Circle. But we'll just go on. Louise will be sending out some information on with the links that we've talked about today so that you can go back and play with it. But again, it's a great brainstorming tool. It can be used as an exit ticket for your classroom. Lots of fun, and you need an account to set one up. But again, if you're using it in your own class, but again, if you're in the learning circle, the facilitator will be sending out the link to the Padlet or to the Wall Wisher if that's something that the facilitator wants you to be collaborating in. Let me just go back. Other places that the students can collaborate and talk to one another is Edmodo, and I don't know if any of you are familiar with using Edmodo. It's a great tool for it's a great tool to be used as an online classroom because you can use it within your own class so that your kids can be collaborating in class, but they can also be collaborating with others around the world. It has that Facebook kind of a feel, and it has, which my students particularly love. It has a lot of features. It has you can have subgroups. So within my Edmodo account, we're going to be having a subgroup for the learning circle, and from there, I'll be inviting other students in the other classes to join that specific page, and that's where a lot of the communication will be happening, and the students will be talking about the particular one that I'm going to be doing is My Hero, so they'll be talking about the My Hero project. So Edmodo is another great tool for you to be taking a look at. But again, the facilitator will be providing the space for the children to be, or the students to be collaborating. No, there's no age limit for Edmodo. The other great thing about Edmodo is that it's all password protected. Can you make up your own topics? That's a really good, I'm seeing all the questions. In a learning circle, you can, where the topics happen, if you think about going back to that slide where it was elementary, middle school, and secondary, within the broad spectrum of global issues, in the collaboration part is where you will be deciding which topic your students will be learning about with the other classes. So there's sort of the broad topic of, for example, my hero, and then so everybody in the learning circle will be talking about heroism and what heroes mean to them. But within that, the subtopic, for example, what my students are going to be doing, and I don't know how this is going to go, is I'm going to be encouraging my kids to be looking at the Olympic athletes and which organizations that they support. So a lot of the athletes have charities that they support and how they support them, so that they're using their sports status as a voice for some of these other nonprofit organizations. So within the big topic, the big idea, definitely your class can choose their own topics to research and report on. Does that help, Joyce?
Yeah, that's good.
Okay, so yeah, and the one thing about the Learning Circle, it is very organic. So the facilitator will never tell you that this is what we're talking about. There is that, you know, the students within the classes are empowered to make their own decisions, and it becomes very grassroots at times. To some teachers, that's a little bit intimidating to have that sort of control, but really the students love it. Okay, so ways that the students can be publishing it. When we first started doing learning circles years ago, 15 years ago that they started, the students were just collaborating in the iEARN forums, and they're great, but students are so much, they're really well versed in publishing online. So again, between the teachers and the facilitators, they'll be able to decide which publishing tools. Some projects use Google Sites. We're going to look at that. Within the Learning Circle, we really encourage people to meet live. And within iEARN, we have we encourage them to use Skype to talk to one another. We have Adobe Connect accounts so that the facilitator will be able to access an Adobe Connect room, plus we have an Illuminate room. So we really encourage the students to meet at the beginning of the project. Again, it really gives them that feeling of, you know, there's somebody on the other side of the world that's really depending on me to get my work done. We've found that a lot of times kids don't care what their teachers think, but when we go to the live Skype, or when kids have a deadline that they need to meet within some of these publishing tools, they usually meet them. It's like they're getting ready for the ball game, and they really care about what their international peers think. Not necessarily what I think, but they're ready for the kids that are around the world. It's one of those offshoots that we've always been really fascinated with. They really don't care what I think, but they really, really care about what their peers think around the world. It's just, to me, it's always been really fascinating. We've also had the opportunity to connect within this. There's usually in the circle opportunities to connect with an expert. And we were able to, within the Bat Chen project, we were able to connect with Bat Chen's mother, which is always a really, you know, it's very difficult to speak to somebody who's lost a child. And she published the book, The Bat Chen Diaries, for a reason, and she speaks to the students about why she did it. And if we can go to the video, Louise, that says Bat Chen's mom, and we can just watch how the students are talking to Bat Chen's mom.
I'm pretty sure that for this video, folks, once it loads up in your whiteboard space, and if you have any problems there, just click on the link in the chat, and you'll just need to control the video yourself and click the play button, and then give us a green check mark when you're done.
There it is.
How is the film of action grading scientists?
So within the project, the students were able to have the opportunity to talk to Bat Chen's mom, and again, it brought it to the project to a different level. Once they spoke to her, they really realized that they wanted to publish, to have a publication that they could be sharing with her as well. And I was lucky I was able to meet her at a conference that following summer and was able to present, her name is Ayla, with the student publication from the Learning Circle. So within this, this webinar, we had students from the United States, a couple of classes in Canada, and a class in Israel that were all talking to her. So it was quite powerful. There's a question, opportunities for the teacher from the classrooms to connect. Yes, through this, the facilitator will send out, they communicate mostly by email, and so the facilitator will send out the information, and then there's a lot of communication through email. And again, depending on the facilitator and their comfort and what tools they have available to them, the teachers will also meet on Skype or in an Adobe Connect room or an Illuminate room to plan out some of the activities that the students will be doing and just to share ideas. And that's where, when I spoke about having that professional learning community that really grows through these projects, that when you do get a chance to plan with teachers, it really supports the project because everybody brings a different strength to the project. And somebody might have a strength in technology and they'll be able to support the technology, and that others might have an idea, a really great lesson, a rich lesson in writing and how their kids are going to be reporting. The time zones, absolutely, Tracy, is something that we've dealt with, but what we find is the teachers that are involved in these projects are quite passionate about making this successful for their students. And we try and find a time like now, it's 8 o'clock at night, seems to be a really good time to be connecting with teachers from different areas. It's an issue, but it's not a barrier, because the teachers are so dedicated and really want, it's the same sort of thing. Once the teachers see that you're out there and there's support out there and there's ideas out there, it's really motivating to talk and to learn from these teachers. And I'll tell you, I've learned so much from teachers in places like Sierra Leone and Burkina Faso and Kenya, who have nothing but have these amazing lessons to share with us. And I'm just so excited to be able to talk to them that I'm not going to say I'm not normal in this way, but we have stayed up till all hours to plan with teachers. But again, the facilitator will do what's sort of best for the group and sort of help it out that way. But time zones definitely can be a bit of an issue. Okay, so Louise, we're going to go back to the whiteboard. Awesome. Okay, Al, you had a question too, sorry.
Yeah, is there places like in Canada or something that we've done it, or have you done anything up in the Northwest Territories or Nunavut or anything? I just know that I have a couple of teachers that wanted to Skype with me and doing it, and this seems like something that would be perfect to do it with. I'm a green industry teacher.
Yeah, it depends on how, because of the way that the registration is, we've had a couple of teachers in the Yukon. It just depends on who signs up for the circle, and that's the sort of the gamble that you take. But what happens through these collaborations is that you end up, things branch out and you end up meeting teachers in different areas. So then not necessarily with a learning circle, but you might be able to get a one-to-one collaboration with a class because you've met so many other people. Do you know what I mean? We can't guarantee that you're going to have somebody from Nunavut or the Yukon in a circle because it just depends on who signs up.
Are we allowed to can you ask people to join this type of thing? Like if we know of a teacher and they
Oh,
want
you
to get
know
involved,
somebody?
and then we would connect that way?
Yeah, well, absolutely. And that's the way, actually that's the way that we got involved with it, was because somebody invited us to a learning circle. And we got involved in our first one, and it was like, whoa, this is amazing. And absolutely, word of mouth is a great way. If you know somebody through Twitter, or Brenda Sherry has been great. If you follow her, she's been really great at promoting learning circles in the past couple of weeks to try to get people that are following her on Twitter to sign up for learning circles. So
are you going to leave your email so that we can get a hold of you? Just so
Yep.
I don't know what the technicalities are, but if I can link the teachers and stuff. And the PowerPoint presentation you put on here, is there any way that we can get a hold of it as well?
Yep, it'll be the recording. I can send you the link to it. I've got it in a Dropbox right now. If you just want to email, I can share the link with you, or there's going to be the recording as well.
Okay, perfect.
Okay, so yeah, and that's how these things, sort of the organic nature of these things, that they grow, right? Like, it's almost like I tell two friends and they tell two friends, and all of that. So that's how we got involved, and then we got other people involved, and also through professional development, we've shared it out that way, and then the word is spread. So yeah. And Joyce, did you have a question?
Yeah, you said that this is going to be available tomorrow on the website, but what website? OTF's website?
Louise will share that information.
And
Yes,
will that get shared out through an email to us or on the chat line tonight?
Yes. Yes, so this whole recording and all the links become a web page that is linked off of our OTF Connects area of the OTF website, and you will get a follow-up email that gives you a link to that specific resource page, and then you can go from there and find, Mally's mentioned some of the other sessions they've done, and there's heaps of stuff there. We'll make sure you're connected to it.
Oh, perfect. Thanks.
Okay, great questions. Okay, so the whole purpose of the Learning Circle is for the students to create a collaborative publication that publish some work somehow. So I've got a couple of examples of how students publish work. When we did the Batchen project, this is the document. This is the book that the students published together, and the students wrote in the style of Batchen. And if you can get a hold of the book, it's available on Amazon. If you're teaching like older elementary and secondary, it's just a fabulous book to see, and knowing the story of Batchen, her writing was amazing, and it was just very insightful for a student who was 15 years old, and it can really bring a lot of discussion if you're in like a civics class or a history class, European history or Middle Eastern, like any history class about, learning about some of the issues of the Palestinian Arab conflict. So these are just small examples of some of the work that the students published, and the facilitator will put everything together. They're responsible for collecting all of the work and then having it published online and putting it online to be shared. And again, once the kids know that it's going to be shared with an international audience, we find that the quality of their work goes up, and they're always ready. The other thing too that we found and is that we've noticed, and it wasn't a formal study, but we followed the cohort of kids that we started with doing some of this work, and their reading and writing scores went up 20%. Of the students that were involved in these kinds of projects, and because it's the writing and reading for purpose that we really found that was engaging. So it's just something else. We know that this is working for kids. We know that it's good for kids and that it's engaging and exciting. And they'll say to us, I really enjoyed this project. It wasn't like writing at all, or you tricked me. I had boys that are writing diary entries and poetry based on this Batchen story. It's really quite amazing. Another way to publish student work. Now this is the trick, right, Louise? So another project, another learning circle that was done a couple of years ago was called the Early Peoples Project, and the students researched about their Aboriginal people in their country and how how they express themselves through art. And the way that the students published their work, everybody published differently. Somebody did a website, somebody did a blog, somebody created some videos, others did slideshows. And actually the students in my class decided that we would link everything on a Google map. And we'll put the Google map in there, and you can take a look at it when you have some time. But if you click on these icons, when you click on the icon, it will take you to a website that the students have created, or it will take you to a slideshow that it's all student-created material. But this is one way of publishing their work that is online. So if you haven't had a chance to play with Google Maps, it's a really great way to showcase some student work by just linking these icons to other sites. We had some difficulty yesterday with it, so I don't really want to take the time to go in and take a look at that, because it really wasn't working well yesterday. We had some internet issues when we were practicing. Other students in the places in perspective, and this might work. If you can go to, and I'll actually go to the second one. So this is a Places in Perspective project that was published in Google Sites, and then another classroom decided to publish their work on a blog. So we're going to see if this is going to work. Oh, it's working today. The map worked. Awesome, Sarah. So if that was the way of the students sharing all of their work in the way that they were reporting it to one another. So can we try the web tour on this one, Louise? It's
this is the second one?
Moldovia?
Moldovia. Okay, there we go.
It's the Moldovia one, yeah. So you should be able to see, I'm going to be able to take you through the site. So the project facilitator in this project, it was the Places in Perspective project. And
Mally, make sure your follow me button's checked up there by the URL.
Follow me. Right. And I've lost it.
It has gone to a very white screen and to the Google Plus sign-in page for some bizarre reason. Okay, let's go back. And I'm going to have everyone follow me. Is everyone back on the iEARN Moldova page?
No, I'm not.
There's a couple of green check marks and we'll know. Did we lose you in the web tour?
Yeah.
All right, what would you like me to click on, Allie?
Okay, so click on one of the videos. It's just a great, I'm just trying to think of the video that I can't even see it. Let me click on it.
Let's see. There's one right on the home page there under projects with Oksana.
Yeah. So this is just these are all slides. This is the one that was shared with me by one of the other teachers, and Linda says she's got a white screen as well.
Click on the last
and Sarah, yes,
in the chat, and that'll open a box.
Yeah. And Sarah has a video in here.
Okay, that's good. If your video works, great. If not, then just click on the link in the chat. It'll open a browser page, and then you can click on there.
Okay, so Sarah, the how-to page to set up for the Google Map. There are tutorials. If you go into Google Maps, there are tutorials that are available that show you exactly how to set that up step by step by step. It's not hard at all. It's a little bit tricky. There's a couple of tricks involved in it, but you know, the kids persevere, and actually the kid that put that map together was in grade 5, and he knew where all the media was, and he was able to put that together. Google Maps are great. We do them for when we're reading a novel, and the kids are marking places in a book. That we've read a couple of a story called Boy Overboard that was like the kids created a map and sort of went through time. It was really fun. So anyway, again, this is the Places in Perspective project. If you want to go back to that site a little bit later and take a look at some of the work that the students did, and asked a question. A couple of the questions, I think this is the site where they were asking the question about special needs students and what we should, how special needs students can be integrated into. That was the big question that they asked with the global perspectives. What are special needs students doing in your school, and they would give the report. So again, the facilitator would take all of those videos and put them together on a blog, and that's the published work that comes out of the Learning Circle. So there will be work there from any of the countries represented in the Learning Circle. So there'll be some from Moldova, and some from Russia, and some from Canada, depending on who was in that particular circle. So maybe we could go back to the PowerPoint. I'm sorry that the links aren't working. We really tried to get stuff that you could play around with. So the celebration at the end. So once all of the student work is published, and there's a way to share it, whether it be on a blog or it be on a Google Map or a PDF that the students can be reading and sharing online. It's really important at the end of the circle for the students to have the opportunity to say goodbye. So again, depending on what project you're in and what the facilitator is wanting to do, there are opportunities to get all of the classes together in using tools like Illuminate or Adobe Connect. Within iEARN, we do have accounts that the facilitators have access to, and that can involve multiple classrooms using multiple media at the same time. So what we really want the kids to be able to do is hopefully see and hear each other. If we really wanted to push the bandwidth tonight, and I don't know if Louise has ever done that, we could have everybody in here on a video camera, and we can talk and we can communicate that way, but it uses up a lot of bandwidth. So and that's when things go wrong. But it's always worth trying it out. So what we do at the end, any learning circle that I'm facilitating, I have the students meet at the beginning to say, hi, how are you? The kids work together, develop their relationships, they create together, and at the very end, we share our work. So we always use Adobe Connect because it just works really well, or not always, but I particularly like Adobe Connect for this because we're able to usually use 5 or 6 video cameras at the same time. The facilitator, what they'll do is they'll set up the room, and it's similar to what we're doing here, and send a link out to the participants in the Learning Circle and invite the classes. And all they need to do is the same thing that you did today, is click on that link and join the video conference where the kids will be able to see each other. And in this particular one, we had classes from Russia, from the Ukraine, from the United States, from Pakistan, and from Canada. My kids are on the bottom, in the middle. And we were sharing our My Hero work, and it was so much fun because we just let the cameras go and the microphones go, and the kids were going up to the camera and talking to one another. And then we invited Jeannie Myers, who's the founder of the My Hero project, to address the kids. The kids were able to share their work. Within these tools, you're able to do that work sharing. You're able to share digital work and share videos. And then the kids start talking and they ask each other questions, and it really is an exciting experience. My favorite story about this one is when we had sort of open mic, and the kids were talking, and my class heard the class in Russia speaking, and they say, oh, they're speaking in Russian, Mrs. Bickley. And I said, yeah, because that's where they're from. They're from Russia. But they thought it was really cool to be able to listen to the kids speaking in their native language. But then it really blew them away when every single one of these classes were so articulate in English. It was just phenomenal. They were able to share their work. And we have just a video. I just want to show you, it's really cool to be able to see and hear kids in another country. So we'll just watch a couple of seconds of the video. Is that okay, Louise? The Russian web conference?
Absolutely. Let me just slip that link in there.
And when we have these, just before we do that, when we have these video conferences and sharing of the work, we invite parents in. And they might not, because the assessment looks a little bit different, we're going to talk about that in another webinar, but because the assessment looks a little bit different, they need to see that the students have been creating meaningful work. And when they see that they've been working together with classes from other classes, it's their aha moment. They kind of go, oh, I get it now. They've been doing this writing, and this is the purpose that they've been doing it for. They've been doing research on these global issues, and they've been creating a slideshow. The assessment looks a little bit different, but when they do see all these kids talking about it and being so engaged, it really is quite amazing. So I always invite parents to these events. So I'm just going to, at the very beginning of this, you're going to see all the kids that are in the circle, and then it's just the Russian kids pop in. We won't show the whole 2 minutes, but here we go. And you should be able to play. There it goes. Okay, so I'll just stop it there just to get the idea of how that works. But this is an example of a time zone. So we were like 1 o'clock in the afternoon in our classroom in Bradford, and the students, yeah, they're so excited. The students in Russia, it was 10 o'clock at night, and the whole class was there. And so that sort of speaks to how exciting this is and how engaging it is and how important it is to them to be able to share with their peers. So, and that's sort of the circle. That's how it goes. The opening and the planning and the actual work. And why do we do this? Like, why? What's so important about it? So I ask the kids. I say, what was really cool about this, or what did you learn, or why was this important to you? And it all came down to audience, and that they had people to share with. And this is a little guy. He's an ESL kid. He was in my class. He was in grade 5, and he was in that Early People's Project. And he said some things that were just, anyway, we'll just play the little, it's the Dan video one. So, really things for teachers to think about, like, why do we engage the students in some of these projects? So I'll just play Dan. And you can kind of see in the background.
Sorry, Mally, your mic went off.
Yeah, and so it comes down to that learning and sharing with the world. So, giving the kids the opportunities to do that and connect and collaborate and share is important. It's the same it is with us. So, the benefits for students, meaningful use of technology right off the bat. There's a purpose to it. The technology is not driving the project, it's supporting it. Digital citizenship within these projects is huge. And I'm not going to lie to you, we've had situations in some of these sites where the kids are talking that it happens that the students will make a mistake and say something that they shouldn't. But those are teachable moments, and it really, we have those talks about digital citizenship. We have to, as teachers, we have to guide them through it. Differentiated instruction, and I hope that you can see that. They can choose how they're going to share what they've learned. They can create a blog, they can do a video, they can do a slideshow, they can do a piece of art. And so the instruction and the tasks and the assessment all look different. It's an authentic application of 21st century skills and student voice. The students have a choice on how, and a voice on the topics that they're going to report in within the global encounters or the global topics. They're going to use their voice to share what they've learned and take action, hopefully. And benefits for us, we're all here learning again tonight together, and that's huge. We're all showing that we're still lifelong learners as well. And what does it do for us? Like, why am I going to do that? I'm going to, it's building our professional learning community and enhances student learning, and it really stimulates our creativity. I know that when I'm my best, when I'm actually working with some of those teachers from around the world. And for us, it's developing that technology-enabled learning environment that is definitely part of our school effectiveness framework and our board initiatives. So it just provides all of those opportunities. So definitely benefits for us. The best one for me is that professional learning community. It has grown exponentially since we started with these projects. Other organizations that you can look into that facilitate some learning circles, they're structured a little bit different. One is the Flat Classroom, or the Flat Connections, which is formerly the Flat Classroom Project. Now they do charge a fee to participate in their projects, but again, really well facilitated. And when you're getting started in these learning circles, the facilitation is so important, to have somebody there to guide you and to answer questions and to keep you on track and to keep the kids on track. And another fabulous organization is Taking It Global. There's lots of opportunities in there as well. And why did my contact information not show up there? Huh. Okay, so I'm going to put my contact information in here because, again, something with the slide, it was there last night. And then you can also get in touch with the other country coordinator. Okay, so if anyone has any questions, we've got a little bit of time, just a tiny bit of time. But as I said at the beginning, if you're looking at if you're wanting an opportunity to connect your students with classes from around the world and using technology to engage them, and you need a place to start, learning circles are definitely the place to start, and a great opportunity now because the registration is happening until Friday. And I think it was Al. So Al, if you have a couple friends that you're interested in inviting, just invite them on over. We'd love to have them.
Yeah, I'll connect with you on that. I was actually emailing while I was listening to you and doing some stuff, so there might be something there for us. So I'll definitely get in touch with you.
That's fabulous. And where are you?
I'm Notre Dame in Burlington. I teach grade 9 to 12 green industries. Anyways, I've done some missionary work, Haiti, Bangladesh, and Malawi, where we were able to Skype in, but so we did organic growing between two places. So anyways, I see what I have here to be able to fit in really well with you, so I think we'll have a lot to talk about.
Yeah, and you might want to look at the global issues, the environment learning circle then.
Yeah, that seems really cool.
Yeah.
This is all new for me, and I saw that there was a lot of elementary on here, but it's really cool. I really think that the secondary can really get into this.
Yeah, and I'm glad, and I don't want to apologize that I don't have a lot of secondary material, but I am an elementary teacher. But we do have, if you go back and look at some of those links, there are secondary examples scattered throughout there.
But I think some of this stuff is so new for the kids and everything that you almost have to teach it at that level before they can go on. Too many times I think the expectations of us is that the prior learning and everything is that the kids are secondary level bound, but I'm finding that when the kids come into high school, on topics like this, I find that you have to digress back to give an understanding of it that may be at a more amateur level than what it is at the secondary. It's totally different. So I think that the elementary connection isn't that low. I think that that's where we have to take the kids back to.
Yeah, and in other projects, not necessarily in learning circles, we do collaborate with classes, the secondary classes, because we're interested in the topic. So often we do have classes collaborating, like elementary collaborating with secondary, and it's a really interesting synergy because it helps the elementary kids bring up their game, but the secondary students feel that responsibility to teach the others as well, to teach the little ones. So if you're willing to take that risk, it kind of works.
Hey, is Blackboard Collaborate, is that something that's that you can get through the ministry or something? Like, is that free software or something? I've never ever used this Blackboard Collaborate before, but doing projects within maybe our whole region, like the Halton board is so big, you know, just being able to connect on something like this for me to be able to teach some elementary teachers on what I'm doing and stuff. How is this? So, like, how do you get hooked up with this Blackboard Collaborate for that type of learning?
I'm not, Louise will know a little bit better. They used to have, if you go to Blackboard Collaborate, they used to have a trial. Do they still, Louise?
You can sign up for a free trial, but I did post in the chat when you mentioned, Mally, that most of the stuff that you guys do is through Adobe Connect, that is software that is licensed by the ministry, and you can access it through the OSAPAC website and talk to your IT people at the board. It is 9 o'clock, so if you want to stay on for a couple minutes after, we can talk more. But right now we do want to thank everyone for participating, and I know Syria is probably going to jump on and say goodbye, but the link that's the big orange one right in the center of your page, you can click on that one, and that will take you to our very brief feedback form, and then the smaller orange link that's a little further down is with lots more great upcoming sessions.
Okay. Thank you very much, Louise. Mally, thank you so much for sharing just so many effective ideas to really engage students and connecting them with other students around the world through learning circles and iEARN. Just so many exciting opportunities are there for students if teachers do take this opportunity that you presented tonight. I'd like to thank each of you for giving of your time and participating in tonight's workshop. And again, great to see new people in the room. Please do take a few minutes and fill out the exit survey and share your feedback and suggestions. The link, Louise has put it on the slide here. We do read through all your feedback and suggestions, and we always base our new program and improve our program based on the feedback that you give us. Since so many of you are new here tonight, do share the link to OTF Connects with your colleagues and encourage them to register for our upcoming session. And I would certainly encourage you to register for the sessions that are coming up. We have quite an array of webinars and opportunities for professional learning for you. Mally, once again, thank you so much for giving of your time to provide teachers with the great opportunity that you have. And Louise, thank you for always keeping us connected. Yep. Thank you all, and good night.
Thanks, everyone. Have a great day at school tomorrow. Hope it's outdoor recess day. And we really appreciate it. And like Syria said, take a look at some of the other topics, and they're absolutely fabulous.